This is Ken Kraetzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio and our Army football huddle, and it is Army-Navy game week, the week we look forward to all year, and the best rivalry in college sports, U.S. Naval Academy against U.S. Military Academy. All the anticipation, and it's going to be a good discussion. We have special guests going to be calling in a little bit. That is Mr. Herman Bulls, who is a member of the West Point class of '78 and well known with the Association of Graduates as one of their officials for many years. And so I look forward to Herman joining us in a little bit. Now, welcoming our team to the huddle tonight, calling in from West Palm, Florida, we have Richard Miller. How are you?
Very well, Ken. Ready for Army-Navy. The highlight before the ball game. Army-Navy. Let's go.
Okay, you're all set. And let's see, from calling in from Huntsville, Alabama, and the Beat Navy studio, we have Colonel Sam Houston from the class of '87.
Hey, Ken. Yeah, it is Go Army Beat Navy week. And one of the greatest, actually the greatest feeling in the world that lasts all year long is that Beat Navy feeling. And so we are right on the eve of renewing and recharging that Beat Navy feeling for another year. So Go Army, Beat Navy.
Very good. And calling in from New Jersey, we have First Sergeant Rich Robitaille. Rich, how are you today?
Good. How are you doing, Ken? You've been busy?
Real well, real well. And calling in from Pelham, my colleague from WVOX, who did a good show today on our SALRadio report, we have Jack McGuirk. Jack, how are you?
Doing very well, Ken. Ready for Army-Navy football. Good,
good. Yeah, it's going to be a special day. It'll be in New York at the Meadowlands Stadium, where it is only really occasional. I think it's been at the Meadowlands 4 times. And we've got 2 teams coming at it from different directions. Army's 8-3, having won 4 in a row, coming off a big win over Liberty. And Navy coming in off a win over Temple, but they're 3-8 on the season. So as we've all been saying, Navy's got nothing to lose, and it's going to come in with everything they've got. So it's going to be interesting. Why don't we go around? Jack, you've been following Navy all year. Tell us a little bit about the team.
Well, they're 3-8 on the season. They've kind of struggled a little bit. You know, at the beginning of the year, they struggled a bit, but they sort of slowly bounced back. And Coach Neil Modulolo, were able to figure things out. So they've struggled. The running game not quite as good as Army's. They don't have that dynamic, Malcolm Perry type quarterback anymore. They still have that, Diego Fago is that superstar linebacker. It's been kind of an up and down season for the midshipmen. But this is going to be the big game. The Army-Navy game is always the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. We met Diego Fargo at the Army-Navy Media Day last week. He is a big guy. He was standing right next to Nolan Cockrell when we got a photo of the captains of both teams together, and he's bigger than Nolan Cockrell. Maybe an inch taller, and he's listed at 240, but I think that's was a sophomore weight. And he's got that very purposeful perspective about him. He is a solid player. Rich, what's your thought about the game? First Sergeant Rich Robitaille, what's your thought?
It's all about the pageantry. I mean, I've been reading all the ESPN reports, all the experts, and so on. And one West Point alum said it best. He goes, "It doesn't really matter what a particular team's record is that year. If one team's having a great year and the other team's sucking it up, they always come with a certain level of motivation." This game is kind of separate from everything else. You know, whether one's going for the title or one is 0-10, you know, Navy would still consider their season a success if they beat us. So, you know, that's kind of how it works, and deny Army winning the sink outright rather than just holding on to it for another year.
All those factors, yeah, they
last year, the greatest goal line stand I ever saw in football history by Army. And I think Navy's going to come to play. You know, I don't think they have the skill set to win it, but that's why they play the games. They're going to come with a fiery passion because they don't like losing at West Point last year, and their seniors want revenge. So, you know, I think it's going to be, you know, I think Army's going to pull it out just because of the talent, but I don't think it's going to be easy.
It's never easy in this game. And Sam, what's your thought? It seems like Army's going in relatively healthy. You know, you've got all the quarterbacks available. You've got these two wideouts in Isaiah Alston and Tyrell Robinson that Anderson's finding a way of getting the ball to different ways. And the Army defense is pretty healthy too. And with those two big linebackers, Andre Carter and Eric Smith. What's your thought about this year's game?
It's best to put it in perspective for people watching who probably, you know, who maybe did not attend either of the academies to understand why this is such a big week. If you go on to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, you can't walk 10 feet without seeing a sign or something painted on the rooftop or even the Beat Navy tunnel that says Beat Navy. It'll say Go Army, Beat Navy. And it is something that is ingrained in you as a cadet from the day you arrive, that the biggest rivalry game of the entire year, regardless of which sport it is the game where you grapple with Navy and to beat Navy. And you live it 365 days a year. And if you go to the Naval Academy, AKA Squidville, and you wander onto the Squid campus, you'll see that they also aspire to beat America's Academy. They aspire to, and they have signs up saying how they want to beat America's Academy. And they try to aspire to that for 365 days a year as well. So when we reach this magical week, this week known as Go Army, Beat Navy Week, it is a culmination of an absolute entire year, 365 days of internalizing the importance of one single game it comes down to, and that is the Army-Navy game every year. This is the game that really you hang the definition of your season upon. I'll use it as an example. When I was a cadet, we had great success with Jim Young as the head coach of the Army football team. Won 2 Commander-in-Chief trophy, my yearling year and my first year. But the season with which Jim Young won the most games was the fall of '85. That year, Jim Young's team won 9 games and beat Illinois in the Peach Bowl. But the season before that and the season after that, so my yearling year, they won 8 games and won the Cherry Bowl. And my first year, they won 6 games and didn't go to a bowl game. But the 8-win season and the 6-win season were considered the successes way beyond the 9-win season of 1985. And why is that? Because in 1985, Army lost to Navy, and it was devastating. And it really put an asterisk on the season. That meant that the work of the team was left unfinished on the football field. And I can promise you that the team this year understands the fact that Navy, yes, they've had a rough season. They did last year too. But I'm going to tell you, they do have a lot of talent. They do have Diego Fago, who is going to start his 4th Army-Navy game, by the way, because he has started for 4 years. He's a stud. I will not deny that. They're going to lay everything on their line. Their entire season rests upon this Saturday. But if you followed what I just said, Army's entire season rests on this Saturday as well. and it's going to be a brawl. Throw the records out the window. Both teams are 0-0, and come game day on Saturday, one of those teams is going to emerge victorious, and that team is going to be Army.
Okay, well, I think you get agreement in this group. Richard, what's your thought about this year's game?
My thought about this year's game is it's going to be a fantastic game. More importantly, I think for Army, because they need to go into that bowl game with confidence. As you know, Army did start off this year with a few wins, and then came back down to earth with a couple of losses. Now at 9-3, they really do have to finish. Well, they have been strong of late, winning four in a row. What they have to do here is keep it going. It is not going to be easy. This is going to be a real battle, but they need this more. Army needs this more, I think.
I think both schools want it badly and will leave everything out on the field. I think it's going to come down to really running games, and I think Army's got the edge with the big fullback, Jacoby Buchanan. They seem like they've untracked the running game in the last couple of weeks, and the ability they have to get the ball to the slot backs now. You know, we talk about getting the ball out to the perimeter. With Tyrell Robinson and Isaiah Alton, those two guys that really have opened up the passing game. They don't have to do it often, but it's just enough to keep the defense honest, and that should be opening up the game. Sam, what do you see in the Army offense? Are they playing as well now as they have all season?
What's most important about how the Army offense is playing right now is that they have limited and almost eliminated turnovers and mistakes. And that's what's most important. So you're going to have either one of two game plans that they're going to come out and play this game with. And one would be just to pound it on the inside with the fullback dive, play it safe. Do some midline options, some quarterback zone runs and stuff like that. And if that's the case, you'll probably see a lot of Tyler. And they're going to play it conservative just to see how Navy's defense is reacting to the inside game of Army. And then probably later in the game, you're going to see Army throw in some of their more perimeter type plays, their option passes and plays that we've seen that work to great effect against teams like Liberty. The thing is that these teams know each other so well that you're really not going to fool anybody with some kind of razzle dazzle. Do I expect Army to unveil a new wrinkle in their offense? Absolutely. Do I expect Navy to do the same thing? Absolutely. Do I expect Navy's defense to present mixed fronts and defensive lineups that are going to be different than what they played the rest of the season in order to try to confuse Army's offense? You know they're gonna. So it's going to be a slugfest from the start. But the team that limits the mistakes, and if the mistakes are even, the team that reacts to the mistakes the best by not flinching, by picking themselves up and continuing their game plan and executing to the best of their ability and not panicking, that's really what it's going to come down to in the end as far as which team is going to emerge victorious. And again, Army's offense has been playing really well because of the fact that of the two offenses leading up to this game in the past 4 games, if you watch all of them, Army's offense has greatly limited and in some games completely eliminated the mistakes that can be game-changing mistakes in the middle of a game.
Okay, and Rich, any thoughts on Army offense?
Army rushing, I think they're second in the nation right now, averaging over 300 yards a game. And that's a big problem. And I mean, we've all seen it. We've seen games where they didn't throw a single pass. Other games, Monken kind of mixes it up. But yeah, they both run the triple offense, but you know, we got those two quarterbacks averaging over 300 yards a game is a very, I guarantee you the Navy coaches are looking at saying that is our greatest threat. And everybody knows that about Army is their running game. But we're second in the country in rushing. So you better take that serious because Monken's going to run it down their throats. And that's what Navy's worried about the most.
Yeah, to stop in the run. I think the question for Army, we talked to Coach Monken about it, is the shape of the offensive line, starting with Connor Bishop, the center, Noah Knapp at guard. That lineup has been relatively consistent once Connor Bishop came back into the lineup after being out. He missed about 3 or 4 games. And we talked, you know, they seem to be more healthy than Navy's offensive line. Talking and listening to Coach Ken Niumatalolo's press conference last week. Let's take a second and Jack, anything on the Army offense you want to add? Or Richard? Anything on the Army offense, Jack?
Yeah, well, one of the questions that we talked a lot about earlier in the season was sort of, you know, who's the quarterback? Well, now we know it's Christian Anderson, and he's done a great job. And most recently, look at their last game against Liberty. They did a phenomenal job in that game. And going up against a guy who's considered possibly the best quarterback in the country, might be going high in the draft this year with Liberty's quarterback. And it's interesting that Army is now mixed up a little bit and have more of a pass game. They're a triple option offense with a big run game, as Rich pointed out, second in the country. I think Navy's run game averages somewhere like 228 per game.
228, you got it.
Yeah, which is pretty low for Navy, actually.
Well, it's yeah, that's the wrinkle for Army. I asked Coach Monken about it last week. He didn't really want to acknowledge it as a big deal, but when you can get the ball deep on these crossing patterns, they love to run Tyrell Robinson with from left side across the field to the flag. That forces the defensive backs to stay back and not be crowding the box right behind the linebackers. So that's something to think about. I know Coach Monk will be quite happy if he didn't need to pass the ball all day, if the offense was just moving the chains and they complete the drives on the ground. Certainly nobody has figured out how to stop Jacoby Buchanan in short yardage. And the question is really, and we're not sure if Anthony Atkins is going to be ready to play. He can make a difference. They tend to have him in on first and second down runs, trying to open things up. And you've got Cade Barnard running as a fullback. And so we'll see. But it's, Army's got the slot backs, AJ Howard and the group. Let's see, what are your thoughts about the Army defense at this point in the season? It seems like they're solid in stopping the run, but they have trouble at times with passing. Sam, do you think Navy's going to try to do what Wake did or Western Kentucky did and test Army deep?
No, because Navy doesn't run that type of offense. But I'll tell you what game film Navy is studying a lot, and that's the Air Force game. And they want to see what it is that Air Force did to open up their throttles in the fourth quarter of the Army Air Force game. They want to see what Hazik Daniels was able to do at quarterback with the different types of plays that Air Force was running that got receivers open in space. There's a precautionary tale here to tell, though, and that is this. When Army played Air Force, my biggest concern was that in watching Air Force play up to that point of the season, I was greatly concerned because I truly believe that Air Force had better players at the skill positions across the board than Army did. That's not the case with Navy. Army has better skill positions across the board at every position on offense than Navy does. And so from a defensive perspective, the big worry that I have about the defense is that they start looking ahead to the bowl game, and they discount Navy's ability to run some of the basic repertoire of the playbook. And they can't do that because if any lesson was learned, even though Navy only won 3 games this year, if you look at the 2 of the games in particular that they won, most specifically in my case that I would point at would be the Central Florida game. What happened is that Central Florida kept making mistakes that let Navy stay in the game. And in the second half, that trend continued. And when Navy finally got their gear in motion on offense, UCF had not been controlling the time of possession. And as a result, their defense got tired, and Navy was able to mount a time-consuming drive and take the lead in the game and hold off UCF. And that is the kind of scenario that you do not want to have happen in this game. Army has got to control the time of possession. So when we're talking about defense, part of that defense is keeping Navy's offense off the field. And the only way that we can do that is for Army's offense to mount long, time-consuming, methodical drives that wear down Navy's defense, run the clock out, and keep Navy from being able to be fresh or from being on the field more than they need to be, so that our defense is always fresh whenever Navy hits the field. So on both sides of the ball, you will find that there are some really good players on both sides of the ball for both teams. But the real word that is key in this respect is which player or which side actually executes the best as a team. And I believe on defense, Army fields the better team, and the statistics bear that out.
What do you think about Andre Carter? I mean, he's had a great season, leading the country in sacks going into this past week. He's forcing double team blocks to keep him off the plays, but he has great athletic ability. And that in some cases is opening up Eric Smith for at the inside linebacker position. How do you see those 2 players? I mean, that's quite a combination Army's got going into this game.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Go back and watch the Air Force game again. Watch the impact that Andre Carter had on his side of the defensive line with the playmaking that he created, the situations that he created. Even the very first play Air Force ran, Andre Carter was in the backfield deflecting a pitch that almost became a turnover on the very first play of the game. And it was Andre Carter that backed up into coverage on the quarterback, the reverse pass back to the quarterback that deflected the pass and became intercepted. And his ability to control essentially 1/3 of the field from his position because of his athletic ability, because of his size, because of his speed, frees up players like Eric Smith to be able to roam freely, where Andre Carter's being double and triple teamed trying to control him. You now have situations where you have players and playmakers like Eric King, who are now on, a single block or left unblocked that can roam freely. And so it creates a real headache for the offensive side of the ball. And press the clock forward to watch the Liberty game. Andre Carter didn't have a single sack. I think he only had like 1 tackle in the entire game. But it was Andre Carter who took up double and triple teaming, who had 2 critical holding calls against him from the offensive line of Liberty that negated big plays and freed up Army's playmakers to just absolutely keep Malik Willis running for his life the entire game and disrupting their entire passing schematic. So yeah, Andre Carter, he's a big playmaker. He makes a big difference. Navy has to account for him. But let's keep in mind, Army's got to account for Diego Fagot. And if Army fails to account for Diego Fagot, you know, they will rue the day that they did. I don't think that they will. And likewise, I don't think Navy is showing up without a game plan to approach Andre Carter. Whether or not it's going to be effective remains to be seen.
Yeah, it's going to be a game that, you know, the defense it's going to, who can maintain their drives, who can convert on 3rd and 4th down, is going to make a huge difference. And, you know, who can make, you know, throw in a big play. I think Navy's certainly is going to play it, maybe take a few more chances on some big plays against Army. We'll see. You know, looking at Navy and offense, it looks like they're going to play their quarterback, Ty Lavatoy, and he's a sophomore. He has some good, you know, decent statistics on the year, and you know, he's completing 54% of passes. He has 367 yards and 5 touchdowns. What do you see? What do you think of the sophomore quarterback, Ty Lavatoy?
He's been important to Navy this year because Navy is not, and I'm not being biased if I say this. I've tried to watch all of the Service Academy games this season just to try to gain a good perspective on what it is that they bring to the table, what their depth represents. It's very telling that, say, for instance, before the season, Tiger Goslin, who was a quarterback for Navy and did start games last year, was moved to slot back and did not play it down as quarterback this year. Xavier Arline started the season as the starter for Navy, and Navy's offensive production was atrocious. And in the big shakeup where Ivan Jasper was fired and then he was rehired as the quarterback coach, they made the switch to Ty Lavatoy as their quarterback. And that really did stabilize Navy's offensive production for the remainder of the year, and something that they've grown off of. He's a workhorse quarterback. He's a big guy. He's not fast, but what he does is he makes pretty good reads, and he does not make that many mistakes. And that's critical for Navy to be able to operate their offense. So that's the importance of Ty Lavatoy to Navy's offense this year.
Very, very good, Sam. Hey, we're really glad. I want to welcome our friend Herman Bulls to the show. Herman, how are you?
Hey, hanging in there, Ken. How are you doing?
Good,
Sorry I'm a little late.
That's okay. We're just getting warmed up.
Hi.
Herman, hey, first off, we want to say on behalf of our group, our condolences on the passing of your lovely wife, Iris. We enjoyed meeting her so many times at events, and just want to offer you and your family our best wishes and prayers.
Well, appreciate that, Ken. She was a great lady and a phenomenal Army supporter, and obviously from having her son play football there, she was black and gold all the way. So she's setting down, getting ready for the game tomorrow, I know.
Absolutely. Now, Herman, a graduate West Point class of '78, extraordinary career in the U.S. Army and in business, and also on many boards. Now, one of the things I want to ask you about just real quick is, are you still on the Military Bowl?
Yes, I am. I'm emeritus, but I still take part. I did that, Ken, for 10 years, and boy, did I learn a lot about how that sausage is made.
Let me just introduce our team. Richard Miller from our SALRadio staff down in Florida, and we've got Colonel Sam Houston from the Beat Navy studio in Huntsville, Alabama, class of '87 graduate. We've got Jack McGuirk from my SALRadio team in Pelham, New York. He does the show you've called in periodically over the years on WVOX. And we've got First Sergeant Rich Robitaille from New Jersey, an Army veteran, obviously, and helps us with covering Army football. So glad to have you join and meet our team. What's your thought about the game being played this year in New York? Looks like there's a lot of festivities. I know you go to the Army Navy Gala the night before, and there's an event at the World Trade Center that day. Lots of things happening. What's your thought about having the game at the Meadowlands?
Well, it's first of all, I want to say hello to our colleague down in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm from Florence, Alabama, about 40 miles away, so very familiar with that area. Have my family still there. So as far as the game, it's just very exciting. Maybe some of your listeners may know I'm vice chairman of the board at USAA, and we're the title sponsor for the event. So that's fantastic. I'll be going up Thursday afternoon. We have a West Point AOG board meeting. We always have our winter board meeting in conjunction with the Army Navy game. And, all of us having served and all of the horrific events for 9/11, what a better way to really bring America's game to the area, and all the great events. And the gala, I think everybody's aware, it's going to be over on Ellis Island. So have to take a boat to get there. So it's going to be just fantastic.
How is that going to work? I mean, I heard that they were going to do the gala. We've seen it at the Philadelphia Convention Center. It's a wonderful event. How is that going to work? Sounds like it's going to be a little complicated.
Well, a little complicated, but it'll be historic and unique. So, I've been over, everybody that's been to the Statue of Liberty, you've gone over there, and they're going to set it up, obviously, in a very way that same thing you see in Philadelphia, where you got Army on one side, Navy on the other side, and obviously with the rabble rousers and people that don't know how to dance. You get a couple of drinks, you get up and try to dance, and the superintendents do a fantastic job from both academies, kind of getting their appropriate crowds. And of course they show also a highlight film from each of the seasons, and I guess Navy will have something to show, I don't know, but the Army highlight film should be very, very, very entertaining. So unique in a lot of ways. Logistically, the bus, the boat, so to speak, you won't be there, but historic event for a very historic moment in our nation.
Absolutely. We were at the Army Navy Media Conference last week, and the significance of playing the game in 9/11 was very well represented, and the players spoke to it, and the officials of the two schools. It should be quite a tribute. We're looking forward to being down there on Friday morning. There's going to be an 11 o'clock wreath presentation and ceremony down at the World Trade Center, and that should be very meaningful. Now, what's your take? We were just kind of going through the strengths of each team. What's your thoughts on Army season? They got off to the strong 4-0 start, then ran into some tough competition. Very competitive game out of Wisconsin, and then beating Air Force, and then 3 wins after that. What's your thought on the season so far for Army?
Well, I think it's been a phenomenal season. Obviously we lost a couple of games I think we could have won. I was fortunate to go down to the Georgia State game, and I was also in Wisconsin for that game. And I was sitting there, probably like most of your listeners, in the first half, just going, do we have another play besides giving it to the fullback with those 350-pound linemen there? And of course, coach doesn't need to listen to me, but in the second half, they came out and actually started pitching the ball and opened the game up. So, the fact that they still had a chance to be competitive in that game in the last minutes, I think that's a tribute. And we all know the season Wisconsin had. They came back after losing a few games to finish in the top 25. And I got to tell you that shootout with Wake Forest, I just never seen anything like that in my life. I think on another day we could have had 1 or 2 more stops. That could have been a very interesting game. And Ken had the opportunity to go after the Air Force game, and I got to tell you, I'm glad my heart is strong. That's all I can say. What a great football game. And what I have to say about the Army-Navy game is our fans should not rest on our laurels. This game, the records don't matter. Navy has nothing to lose. They are going to give it everything they have. And you got to look at what Navy did with Cincinnati, right? I mean, they were competitive in that game up to the end of that game. So I know, what are we now, 7 or 8 point favorites? I almost wish it were even, because our guys, I think, unfortunately, I think they read that stuff. And, our buddy down in Alabama calls it rat poison. You just can't listen to that rat poison talking about Nick Saban, and they've got to come out ready to play. This is not a slam dunk game.
Well, it's certainly a matchup. One of the things Army and Coach Munkin has done very well is utilize multiple quarterbacks during the season. We talked to Christian Anderson today. He looks raring to go. Tyree Tyler has played well. Gives them a shot of energy. And Jabari Laws, it's a great story, being able to come back from 2 serious knee injuries to be able to play effectively when called upon this year. What do you think about the Army offense so far?
Well, I think it's, Buchanan, I got to tell you, I guess he still has a record. He has not lost a yard in all of his carries at Army. That's phenomenal. Coach Munkin, to include at Air Force, he's made some pretty gutsy calls going for it on 4th down. And I think, same thing back when I was there with Homer Smith, basically all great coaches say, if you can't gain a yard, you don't deserve to win. So I think the grit and determination these guys have is fantastic. I think what has happened, particularly with Christian Anderson being able to throw the ball this year, when they stack 8 in the box and all of a sudden he's able to do some play action there, I think that's been a phenomenal addition to the offense. And of course, Tyler, I mean, he's had some good passes as well, but that kid is so quick. It's just amazing. And I think it's having to prepare for both of them is just a really great advantage for us, right? Because Christian's probably not going to juke and jive as much as Tyler. And of course, you think he's going to throw the ball well, but Tyler, a couple of games ago, he had 2 out of 3 passes, and he does just a fantastic job getting out of tight situations. So you got the V-back, as I said, Buchanan and his buddies are there, and I'm having a senior moment, but the young man that had the 76-yard touchdown run, and what's he averaging, 14 yards a carry or something?
I think of Tyrell Robinson.
Yeah, Robinson, yeah, he's just fantastic. And I really think I don't want to get ahead of myself for that SEC game, but let's get through this Navy game, and I think we're going to be very, very representative for our next 2 games.
Very good, very good. Well, Herman, so good to have you. Can you stick with us?
Sure. I'm I had a colleague that's retiring. I had to go to the dinner, and I told the guys I did not get my dessert tonight. I probably didn't need it, but come here with you guys, and I'm headed back home now, Ken.
Okay, thanks. So we appreciate you joining us. At this point, we let our colleague Richard Miller go through some of the other games. There were other games in college football this past weekend. Richard,
the other games in college football this weekend, number 17 Utah defeats Oregon 38-10 as Utah wins the Pac-12 championship. They finish at 10-3. Number 3 Alabama defeats number 1 Georgia in the SEC championship game. Alabama goes to 12-1. Georgia is also 12-1. It was their first loss of the year. The Michigan Wolverines punch a ticket to the college football playoff with a 42-3 victory over number 13 Iowa. Michigan is number 2 in the country. Cincinnati Bearcats by 15 over number 21 Houston, 35-20. Cincinnati is now 4-0, is now 13-0 on the season, 8-0 in the American Conference. Houston, number 21, is 11-2. Number 9 Baylor gets by number 5 Oklahoma State, 21-16. A goal line stand late gets the Bears their 11th win of the season. Oklahoma State also has an 11th win on the season. The ACC championship, number 15 Pittsburgh, 45-21 over number 16 Wake Forest. Pittsburgh's 11th win on the season. Wake Forest is now 10-3 on the season. In the Mountain Western Conference Championship, Utah State 46-13 over number 19 San Diego State. 11-2 is San Diego State. 10-3 is Utah State. Louisiana number 24 against 24 against Appalachia State. Louisiana is 12-1, while Appalachia State is 10-3 on the season. And as far as the college football playoff semifinals go, Alabama will be taking on Cincinnati on New Year's Eve in the Cotton Bowl Classic at AT&T Stadium. At the Hard Rock Stadium on December 31st, Michigan will be taking on Georgia.
Thank you, Richard. Good run through. Some really amazing games there. I enjoyed watching Michigan break through and win over Iowa and get into the college football playoff. And Alabama beating Georgia. And that's an interesting. What do you guys think of the combination of on the playoff matches with Alabama playing Cincinnati and Georgia will play Michigan in the semifinals?
It's going to be a tough game for Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's a tough draw.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you got to be careful what you wish for sometimes.
Yeah, I think that the right four teams are in it. But before I continue, I just wanted to give a shout out to Herman. Herman is Sam Houston down in Huntsville, 87 150s alum. And I just wanted to tell you that one of the greatest joys of the past few years that I've had has been regular attendance at the Sprint Football Alumni Reunion that we do every year. And your classmates have essentially adopted me as an honorary member of the class of 78, that being guys like John Drew, Sandy Sanders, General Bostic, and those guys. I cannot start to express what some real, true, and incredible Americans they really are. And much thanks to Coach Mark West from the Sprint team for pulling together the reunion every year that brought me in contact with such great Americans as your classmates. So we love to have
Sam,
you on tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sam. And John Drew, as you know, we call him Dog. He was in my company plebe year. He's a very, very, very dear friend. And General Bostic, Tom Bostic, and I went to Ranger School together at Cadets, and he lives, 2 or 3 miles from me. And while we were stationed at West Point, 2 of our kids were born, and we would drop the other one off at Tom and Renee's house. So he's just been a phenomenal. He's a great American. And Sandy. So that entire crew. And I got to tell you, sometimes I ask those guys if they need their head examined for going out there actually playing at the age of 60 with 18 to 21-year-olds. But, they love the game. And I think, John and also Vaughn Vasconcelos, they were major contributors for us to get that locker room done for 150s and women's softball. So our class has just done a phenomenal job, not only in the Army with Kurt Scaparrotti. He was our last classmate to retire as the NATO commander. And of course, General Bostic was, in addition to being head of engineers, also was the desk per for the Army, and he also did recruiting command. So just phenomenal Americans to be around. And Sam, I really appreciate those kind words.
Yeah, you bet. And, Dog Drew, he's a bad influence on me at the reunion. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Sandy Sanders is an absolute wild man. And General Bostic was my ME 301 professor when I was a cadet. So it's really awesome every year to see those guys.
So I guess I can tell this story now. So Dog Drew was one of the few plebes in our company in C2 that went AWOL at night with the first team, go down to go track. So I will tell you that is a fact of life. And I will also tell you that he's been one of the most successful classmates that we've had in our class. So I think that entrepreneurship and ability to stress the system, I think it comes to pay off later in life.
Yeah. Well, Herman, I hope you and I have a chance to sit down over an adult beverage sometime, and I'll share some of my stories from the reunion about these guys, because I love every one of them. I consider them brothers, even though we did not attend the academy together. But we're born of the same blood of the 150s, and because of the work of Coach Mark West, we've become good friends, and I look forward to seeing them every year. So I would look forward to sharing my thoughts on all of them with you sometime.
Sounds great.
We always
now-
have a 150 sprint football breakout discussion in these gatherings.
Well, I hear class of 78, and I'm automatically thinking, I mean, for these guys from the, I can't even, well, Ken, you met some of the class of 78 guys last
Really
year.
enjoyed that.
They are
sitting down
really
with them
incredible people.
over the
man.
summer. Yeah.
But, you know, back to this past Saturday's games. Again, I think the right teams are in the playoff. I've been calling Cincinnati the whole time. I want to point out that Cincinnati is the only undefeated team that's in the BCS playoff. Yes, they had the weakest strength of schedule, but we'll see how this pans out. And I want to remind everybody that last year in the Peach Bowl, Cincinnati came within the last second of beating Georgia. It took a 50-something yard field goal by Georgia to emerge victorious against Cincinnati. So don't take them lightly because they don't come from the SEC or they don't come from the Big Ten. They have the #1 ranked pass defense in the country this year. So granted, I got it. Nick Saban is God in Alabama. And I'm sure that he is coaching his team up to have a game plan for Cincinnati. And if any coach in the land will exploit weaknesses on Cincinnati's defense, it'll be Nick Saban. Just look at the body of work that he pulled against Georgia, who up until this past Saturday was having a season of defense for the ages. They got exposed as chumps by Alabama. And I mean it. They got exposed pretty badly. So we'll see how it pans out. My personal prediction in the playoff is that Alabama will beat Cincinnati, although it will be a lot closer game than anybody is predicting that it will be. And Michigan is going to upset Georgia. I think Georgia just has too much mentally to overcome from what happened this past Saturday. And I think it's going to be Bama and Michigan in the playoff or in the final. I'm not going to predict a winner there because we got to get through the first 2 games of the playoff. But don't discount Michigan. They are peaking at the right time, and they're hungry. That's what I'm seeing.
I agree. I thought they played a very strong game against Iowa.
Yes.
And hey, let's the Heisman Trophy finalists were announced today. You've got from Michigan their defensive end, Adian Hutchinson, Pittsburgh quarterback Kenny Pickett, Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud, and Alabama quarterback Bryce Young as the 4 finalists. That'll be in New York for the ceremony and the announcement, which is actually going to be Thursday this year at 9 o'clock. Normally it's on Saturday night following the Army-Navy game. Any favorites there on the Heisman Trophy finalists?
I'll take this one. And I agree with the prediction that Alabama will take Cincinnati. I think Georgia is going to take Michigan, and I'm going to go out on the limb and say Alabama is going to take the whole thing. And consistent with that, I think Bryce Young, his performance over the last 2 weeks, particularly what he did in the Auburn game under the circumstances at the end of the game, that's what you call a winner, somebody that can do that. And I think he showed his true colors there, and obviously the game against Georgia this week when just, you know, we know the football is oblong and it takes funny bounces, but winners make things happen. I'm talking about the fact when he fumbled and somehow got the fumble back that kept that drive going. So I predict Bryce Young.
Okay.
I
Anyone
agree.
else have a favorite?
I agree.
I'm going with Bryce Young.
Yeah, I agree completely with Herman. And I'm just going to add that last year, Mac Brown set the SEC championship record for passing in the SEC championship game. And then Bryce Young shows up against what everyone is touting as like the greatest defense in decades in Georgia. and beat Smack Brown's record in the SEC championship game. So the last 90 seconds of the Auburn-Alabama game and the overtime, coupled with the SEC championship, I think locked it for Bryce Young.
Okay. Hey, I wanted to bring up a question or a point that so much has happened in the college football coaching carousel, as it's called. Lincoln Riley going to USC, Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame to go to LSU, and then the Oregon coach, Mario Cristobal, giving up what I understand was $85 million left on his contract to go to the University of Miami. What's happening here? This is an amazing set of moves by leaders in college football. Anybody have a thought on what's happening with this?
Well, the Miami one, that was kind of a big surprise. And it was not a very nice move by Miami, because I believe they actually got the guy from Oregon before they fired the head coach. So their head coach is still under contract when they got this new guy in. So that was not the best way to handle things in Miami. And then that big stunner with Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame to go to LSU, and Notre Dame just missing the playoffs. I think they were number 5 in the rankings. But there was I don't know if you saw the video, at Notre Dame, there was a video where the players were introduced to their new head coach, and it was the defensive coordinator. So he walked into the room and the players were jumping for joy. They were thrilled about it. So that was kind of a nice silver lining, I guess, for Notre Dame.
Yeah, wonderful speech that the new coach at Notre Dame made that night. Herman, any thoughts on this world of coaching changes and $10 million a year for coaches?
Yeah, I'm looking at it almost from a corporate perspective, and all of us need to know that Big 5 conference football is a business, and you can imagine, the boosters have unlimited money. They have the ability to influence things. They want to win. Put yourself in a situation where you have practically unlimited assets, and I'm talking about the boosters now, and you like to sit around the golf course, and you like to sit around down at Augusta and talk about how your team wins, and people are willing to put the bucks up. And then looking at it from the coach's perspective, we all get accustomed to our environment that we're in, and we certainly like it, and it seems comfortable. Let me tell you, these guys are competitive, and they see the challenge and the idea. Lincoln Riley, that guy is so cool. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And, he kind of reminds me of the Ole Miss coach, who I'm a big fan of. And, I'm surprised that Ole Miss was able to, lock him up with another long-term contract. And then look at even Michigan State, what they did to preempt their coach leaving. So the boosters have the money. Coaches still like challenges, no matter, what it is and how comfortable they are. And, even, we may or may not want to talk about it, but even though the thing with, Coach Monken, these guys, when they have the opportunity to go out and make that kind of money, they're setting their family up for the long term. And, that's something that, we've all got to look at and say they've got to make decisions that are in their personal best interests while taking into account their reputation and the fact that they have a tie to an institution. But I think the combination of wanting a new challenge and the big bucks on the table, we're in a time period where next season we're going to have the same thing happen again. I guarantee you.
Yeah, it is amazing the amount of money that is spent on coaches now. And the other thing I noticed, there's a series of videos going around about showing the facilities at the major schools. These $200 million locker room setups and practice facilities. It's really a vast amount of money being spent to, as you said, Herman, produce a winning team consistently.
Well, I mean, think about it. You're 17 years old, and some of them 16 when they make their first trips. And, you see this, and you're seeing these, not against the rules, but Nick Saban with his Aflac commercial, right? I mean, he's right in your living room, and these guys, they're deity, godlike in nature, and you got to have the facilities. There's an arms war, no pun intended, for facilities in major football, and they are spending it. I mean, the lazy river down at Clemson. We know Oregon has their own barbershop and pizza, and it's just amazing. And think about it I can remember when I was being recruited, those things didn't exist. It was just a matter of you were happy that somebody wanted you to come play football for them. But these kids these days, that's what it takes to be competitive.
Sam, any thoughts on the coaching changes?
Yeah. First, let me just address the videos about facilities. These are not just recruiting videos for potential players and to sell them on a reason to come to the school. They're also a selling point for luring coaches, because the last thing a coach wants to do is go to a school and have to rebuild their facilities in addition to rebuilding a staff and rebuilding a team. They want to know that a team is already committed to success by having already donated and expended considerable sums of money in creating world-class facilities. Now, as far as the coaching carousel, this is one of those moments where, once again, I'm going to expose myself as bleeding black and gold and gray blood purely. I view coaching carousel purely through the lens of Army West Point. And in that concern, I look at Coach Monken, and I look at the vacancies, and I look at what is the potential. We've had another great season, and I'm going to tell you something. We are about to go to the 5th bowl game in 6 years. We're on the verge of winning outright the 4th Commander-in-Chief trophy in 5 years. Mm-hmm. We are in the midst of the greatest era of Army football in the post-Colonel Red Blake era. And I'm enjoying it. This is my zen, folks. This is my zen. So the worry this time of year always comes, Coach Monken, oh my God, is he going to go? And there's two centers of the universe right now with a vacancy that look like they could potentially be the ones. One is Duke. The other one is University of Virginia. When you weigh all of the intel that comes in about every year about, what could possibly lure Coach Monken away from West Point, I'm going to stick to my guns right here. And I'm going to tell you, he's not going to either one of those places. Virginia has already got their eyes on a UVA grad who is an alum who played football for them. And Duke, from my understanding, actually does have their eye on a Monken, but it's Todd Monken from Georgia, their offensive coordinator, not Jeff Monken. So I am feeling right now pretty good that we're going to make it through this time of year again, that time of consternation about whether or not Coach Monken is still going to be here in the spring for spring practice. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Matter of fact, I'm feeling better about it this year than I was last year. All right. But I am going to stick to my guns as well about a prediction I made at the beginning of this season. And that is about Navy. So I'm gonna bring it back up. When Army beats Navy on Saturday, there is no if. So when Army beats Navy on Saturday, I believe that's going to be Ken Niumatalolo's last game for Navy. And as he departs, I'm still speaking. Brian Bohannon from Kennesaw State is going to be the new Navy coach next season. That's my coaching carousel discussion.
Okay, well, I happened to be at the Army-Navy Media Day where the Navy athletic director got up and gave Ken Niumatalolo a tremendous endorsement as his accomplishments. And one of the things that Coach Ken said on his press
That's when you look out when you get those.
Well, yeah, I guess you could look at it that way. I listened to his media conference last week, and he pointed out that he has that he's playing a lot of young players this year, and that he's got another strong recruiting class coming in.
Well, Ken?
Yeah, Richard, go ahead.
That Monken, the other Monken, Todd Monken, that's Jeff Monken's cousin.
Right. Yeah, there's quite
Yeah.
a family. Jeff Monken's father is an outstanding coach in Illinois high
His
school
younger
football.
brother is a former football coach at St. Charles East and West Chicago.
And now is the which coordinator is he at Auburn?
He's at Georgia. He's the
Georgia,
offensive
I'm sorry.
Offensive coordinator at Georgia.
Okay, there you go. There we go. Well, you know, we wish Coach Monken the best and his family, and we hope he wants to stay at West Point. He does such a tremendous job. He's such a leader. He talks so well about preparing the cadets and the players for their duties as Army officers. And it was interesting on when we talked to him just around Veterans Day that he mentioned 2 players on the team had recently served in Afghanistan at the airport. Ray Wright and JD Moat, I think he mentioned, and how proud he was that 2 of his recent former players were on frontline duty in a hotspot in Afghanistan. So I hope, I think he likes the job. I think he loves coaching the future Army officers, but we'll see. I think he does think he has ambitions. Herman, any thoughts on Coach Monken? You certainly gotten to know him over the years.
Yeah, I go back, and obviously a lot of people were very, I won't say dismissive, but were criticizing him last year for considering the Kansas State job. And I go back to what I said before. These gentlemen are humans. Coaching, the coaching profession. I got to tell you, I was on the trip a few years ago when we went to Air Force. I traveled with the team, and we had a jovial. My wife and I were up in first class. Coach Monken and his wife were right behind us, and going out. Not a lot of conversation, but it was very jovial, friendly. And you guys may remember we lost that game out there. And I'm going to tell you, getting back on that plane in the same, he was already watching on his iPad, watching film, but it's almost like like you're a pariah. Nobody wants to talk to you, and it's just it's awful. Okay, but it's great when you win, and of course they get paid the big bucks to take that risk to be able to do that. So I would just say that in the end, I've got a lot of respect for Coach Monken. He's done a tremendous job for West Point and the Army, right? Because it's all about, my son is in the Army marketing office out in Chicago now. And, it's all about brand. So even though a lot of people still don't know that West Point is associated with the Army, but when you do learn it and you've got a winner, that just means so much. And part of that can't be quantified in terms of dollars of what he brings to the table. But in the end, I got to tell you, he's got to do what's best for his family, and whatever, I certainly hope he decides to stay, but whatever he does, I wish him the best of luck. But I do want to tell you, I've got some more friends that are in high level sports. And I had one that, kind of took that change, and they're no longer in athletics, because you talk about, leaving the frying pan to go into the fire. You think it's pressure at Army. I'm telling you, I went down, a friend of mine is on the board of trustees at Alabama. And I was down at the Alabama-Tennessee game and had the opportunity. I was a guest of the president, and before the game, spent an hour down on the field, watched the game from the president's box. And, these guys won by 24, 30 points, and it was still being criticized. So when you go to these football factories, there is no alternative. I mean, look at LSU, okay? Guy was coach of the year 2 years ago, and undefeated season, national champ, and he's out. So I'm certain any coach, including Coach Monken, looks at that in terms of longevity, sustainability, because you can have one bad season and you are gone.
Yeah, not even a chance to do the recruiting that's necessary, because we look at Army, it took Coach Monken 2 years to bring players in, let them get their feet on the ground, get experience until and really grow up to be juniors before the team really turned it around and became the very competitive team that we've seen. It takes really 2 to 3 or 4 years.
Well, let me say this, and I think my compatriots Jack and Sam and Richard agree with this. Coaching, I think, is about 15 to 20% of it. Okay, it's about the players, it's about the athletes, and these Power 5 schools are able to get the great athletes, and Nick Saban, obviously, Jim Harbaugh, these guys are making a difference in terms of their coaching, but it's really about the recruiting.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. And Ken, I would say, yeah, I totally agree with Herman. And last week, I had my impassioned plea to Coach Monken. And what I mentioned in that was, is that Coach Monken and actually Coach Niumatalolo as well, they both share the same mentor. And their mentor is a friend of mine from my county in Avery County, North Carolina. We went to the same high school. He was my running backs coach when I played high school football, and that is Paul Johnson. And Paul Johnson, had he stayed at Navy, let's say that Paul Johnson did not jump ship to Georgia Tech. Had he stayed at Navy, he might have retired by now, just like he's retired from Georgia Tech. But I'm going to tell you straight up, Paul Johnson, if he had stayed at Navy, he would be considered right now he would be ranked with Red Blake as one of the greatest academy football coaches ever. The guy only lost one Commander-in-Chief trophy game, one, and that was his first year. And then he went to Georgia Tech, and he became beset by the challenges that Herman was talking about. And he didn't have those at Navy. And so last week I talked about the fact that I am certain, I would bet money on it, that Coach Monken at the end, when we reach this point of the season every year, he's having his conversations with Paul Johnson about his options, about what's out there, what's beyond the horizon. And only they know what happens in these conversations. And I personally believe that if Paul Johnson was looking back and reflecting on everything that he accomplished as a head coach in college football, and he was asked to change one thing, I believe that Paul Johnson would change his decision to go to Georgia Tech and would have stayed at Navy. And I pray that when Coach Monken is having that conversation with his mentor, Paul Johnson, that my fellow Avery County high school alum and former running backs coach as a high school football player at Avery County is telling Jeff Monken, hey, you've got a great thing at Army. You can go down as the greatest since Red Blake. Stay there. And you will not have any of the challenges that Herman was talking about, because you have all the support of the alumni and you do not have any of the typical headaches that you will find in a Power 5 conference.
Okay. Hey, Herman, I want to ask you a couple of quick things since we have you. What's your thought on name, image, and likeness that doesn't affect the academies very much? They're not allowed, the academy athletes aren't allowed, from my understanding, to take any compensation while they're at the schools, but it does open the door for athletes at other schools. And as you said, at the big schools, they're embracing it and finding ways essentially to help their athletes earn compensation on name, image, and likeness. How do you see it changing?
Yeah, so a couple ways I want to answer it. And the first, I want to answer it just as a capitalist that I am. And, these universities and coaches are just making a boatload of money off of this. Let me tell you, when I was down, I went down to Alabama, Tennessee game. I went down on Thursday and I played golf Friday, but on Thursday night, my hotel room was $179 at the Capstone, and that's the hotel that's 2 blocks from the stadium. For Saturday and Sunday night, the hotel was $1,200 per night. Okay.
Wow.
And you had to have a 2-night minimum. Okay. So that's gives you some idea. And because Alabama's team stays there as well, by the way. So, Coach Saban's, his Mercedes is out front, and all the players are, out and about, roaming around the hall and everything. So to say that is the money part of it. But two things: as the capitalists, these kids deserve, something for what they're doing. And a comment I want to make here is, I don't know if all of football, but certainly in the Power Five, a disproportionate number of these kids are minority. They're coming from tough situations, and they don't know it at the time, but they're at the peak of their fame and career. Because, I was smart enough, didn't think I was going to the pro when I was playing, but, I thought I was good. Okay. And these kids are really good, but the difference between good and great is very small, but not many of them are going to make it. So to the extent that if these things can be done, the only thing that, I wish they would do is do something to the extent of putting the money away and not letting them buy pizzas with it while they're in college, for either grad school or just an investment fund to have later in life. But overall, Ken, to answer your question, I'm in favor of it, and those are the reasons.
Absolutely. The other point I wanted to make while we had you is West Point had an outstanding achievement recently with 4 members of the senior class being named Rhodes Scholars, all women, including the first captain, Holland Pratt. What was your thought about Army West Point having 4 Rhodes Scholars this year?
Well, I took that tweet from the academy and I retweeted it, and I've gotten, thousands and thousands of likes from my business colleagues. And the beauty of that, having an African-American female and all females, was just fantastic. And I think I have my numbers right. We are probably behind Harvard and Yale for the most Rhodes Scholars, in the nation in history. And again, talking about this whole thing, we talk about branding all the time. It just, for Sam, Jack, and our degrees are worth more when these kids do those things, because it just reflects so favorably upon the academy. And Ken, I think and I'm certain Sam knows, I used to teach in the Department of Social Sciences. I taught finance and economics there. And that is the department that gets these kids ready. Anyone that wants to apply for a postgraduate scholarship, they go through a program that is run in the social department, and we get them ready. We teach them everything from how to stay up on current events. We teach them how to act at a cocktail party, because they're going to go through the interviews, how to make small talk, et cetera, et cetera. So these things don't happen by accident, but there's no doubt. We talked about the football talent. These cadets, these ladies are just very special people. And we do our best just to give them that little margin of excellence to make sure that they compete. So it makes me very, very proud as an alumnus. And I'm just so happy for them and their families.
Absolutely. I have to say, Holland Pratt, the first captain, is a graduate of the American Legion Girls State program in Washington, and also the Girls Nation program. And that's something everyone at the American Legion is very proud of, and very proud of her accomplishments.
Well, Ken, I'm happy to tell you that a long time ago down in Alabama, not only I was Boys State, but I won my party's nomination for governor. And however, I didn't make it to Boys Nation, but that was a great experience. And after my plebe year at West Point, I went back to Boys State with the American Legion to be a counselor, and that was just a lot of fun to do that. So I want to commend you and your colleagues at the American Legion. You have a way of identifying just fantastic talent and giving them a stage where they can demonstrate what they can do. So thanks to you and your colleagues for what you do with the American Legion.
Oh, we always say we represent the 2 million veterans of the American Legion, and very proud to do that. Now it's time. We're getting a little late, but it's so good to have Herman Bulls with us. This is our lightning round, where we'll talk and make a prediction about Army's game this week, and everybody gets a chance to talk about their keys to the game and predict the final score. And we'll lead off with Richard. Richard's had amazing accuracy on these things. We worry when he doesn't pick Army, though. What do you got for us, Richard? Turn your microphone on. Gotta get your microphone going.
Get my microphone.
There
Well,
you
what
go.
I got for you guys is, I think, a very good game. I think Army's going to need to run it right down their throat against Navy. I think if Army's running game is as strong, I think it could be a game where they could win. Maybe this could be. I'm not sure if this is not going to be just a game where it's going to be won by only two touchdowns. This could be, a very close game. But come to think of it, I think maybe Navy isn't that good. Army should win. Army
Okay.
should be winning. I'm going to go 34-24 Army.
34-24 for Army. Okay,
Yes.
Richard. Very good. Jack, you're next up.
All right. I like Army in this game as well. The big thing with this game, the pageantry and all the everything happening there, it should be great. It's going to be hard to top last year, though. The Army shutting out Navy at Mikey Stadium on my birthday. That was pretty cool. But I do like Army in this game, and they also have those great uniforms. We talked about last week Army's uniform and special uniform for the game. That kind of desert camo. We were talking about that, and then Navy showed up their uniform, which is in honor of the Naval Air Force. Kind of looks like a sort of a Top Gun logo on the uniform, which is pretty cool. My grandfather was a Navy pilot, so it kind of made me think about him when I saw that uniform. As for the game, I do like Army in this game. They are 7.5-point favorites. I just checked that, and I think Army is going to come out. I'm going to say 28-14 Army in this one, much to the chagrin of my naval reservist father. So yeah, I think Army's going to win this one. And when Army wins this one, Coach Monken will be tied for second place with Charles Daly on the Army as the second winningest coach in Army history.
Okay, Jack, thank you. And Jack will be with us in the press box at the Meadowlands on Saturday, and looking forward to that. Sam Houston, what's your keys to the game and a prediction on a score?
First, I appreciate Jack bringing up the uniforms. So this Saturday, we're going to have Maverick and Goose going up against Army Special Forces. And let me tell you something. I'm going to go with Army Special Forces all the way over Maverick and Goose. So, all kidding aside, this is Army Navy. And I'll tell you what this year's game reminds me of. It reminds me of the game in 2018. In 2018, Army was having their historic season. They ended up with 11 wins in the Commander-in-Chief Trophy that year. And on paper and even in the game, Army was clearly the better team than Navy, but they couldn't put Navy away. And it was very frustrating. And there was a time where the score was only 10-7 late in the third quarter. And so everyone is sweating bullets again, thinking, my God, how is it possible that the team that is clearly the better team is still only ahead by a field goal with a quarter to go in the game? And the outcome is in doubt. Well, the answer is very simple. It's because it's Army Navy. And, this year, Army is clearly the better team than Navy. And I do not even say that in disrespect to Navy. I'm just saying that Army is a better team. Navy was embarrassed by Air Force. Army beat Air Force. Navy is 3-8. Army's 8-3. Navy's had a stronger strength of schedule than Army, but Army has beaten several teams that are going to bowl games, including a Liberty squad that apparently had what many people are saying could possibly be the #1 draft pick in the NFL as quarterback. So, but we're playing Army Navy. So the key to the game is this, and I mentioned it before. The team that does not make mistakes and executes its game plan is the team that's going to win. And I believe the history of this season, game by game, proves that Army is the team that is going to do that. And even if there are mistakes made, Army will recover better from mistakes than Navy will. However, as much as myself and every alumni around the globe would love to be partying by the halftime because Army's up so big that we know the Army's going to win, I just don't see that happening, and I cannot predict like that. I think it's going to be an extremely tight game. Once again, we're all going to be sweating bullets into the third quarter. Fourth quarter is going to come along. Boom, there's going to be a couple of mistakes made by Navy. Army's going to put the game away, and I'm going to agree with Jack on the final score. Army's going to score a touchdown late that's going to put the game out of reach, and the final is going to be 28-14 Army. Army outright wins the Commander-in-Chief trophy for the fourth time in 5 years and beats Navy for the fifth time in 6.
Okay. And what's the score? What score did you come up with, Sam?
28-14, just like
28.
Jack.
Okay. And you brought up memories of John Voight running after Malcolm Perry, catching him on the 3-yard line and giving the Army defense a chance to make a goal line stop, forcing a field goal. And that field goal attempt in the snow in 2018, what a memory, what a moment that was. Herman, would you like to go through what you're
Sure. So I don't have to
Sure.
repeat. I don't have to repeat what Sam said, and I just agree with him in terms of the competitiveness of the game. Take those records and really throw them out. It's going to be a very tight game in the first half. We may be up by 3 or so in the first half, and I think the key to the game is, remember, Navy knows how to defense the option. I think our coaches are going to try to do what they've done all year. They're going to try to establish it inside with the big guy, and Navy's going to keep creeping it up. And Tyler or Anderson, one of those guys, are going to suck them in, and we're going to get a long pass, and that's going to loosen the game up a little. We've got to get the edges. We got to get to the edges, okay? And if we don't get to the edges, we're going to have what we had in that Wisconsin game in the first half, where we had, 38 yards rushing in the first half. And I think our coaches are going to remember that and, loosen it up. Because, look, this reminds me of hand-to-hand combat at Ranger School, right? And I think all my colleagues know, if you sit there and you're tense and you're trying not to make a mistake, what happens, Sam? You get hurt, right? So you got to let it go. These kids have practiced it. You got to not be afraid to pitch the ball. I don't know it rained a little here in DC tonight. I don't know what the weather's going to be, but we got to be ready to put the ball in the air. The game is going to go down, I think, to the middle of the fourth quarter. It's going to be tight, and I predict the final score is going to be Army 30, Navy 24.
30-24, Herman signs up for. Okay, very good. Hey, on the uniforms, the one thing I'll say for Navy is I remember after 9/11 that they got an aircraft carrier out in Norfolk very quickly, and were able to fly patrols over New York City, and to their credit. So I think I saw that a little bit in their naval aviation uniform this time. So I think I agree a little bit with what Herman said. I think it could be tight. It's going to be who can avoid, who doesn't make a mistake. Army's running game, I think, is going to try and pound. They're going to try and do the same thing, but I think Army's got a better running game this year. It's a question: how much does Diego Fargo make an impact for Navy? How much does Andre Carter and Eric Smith make a difference for Army on defense? I think a big edge here is the experience of the quarterbacks. Army's got 2 experienced quarterbacks, 3 with Christian Anderson, Tyler, and Jabari Laws if needed. That's a lot of experience. Navy's quarterbacks are sophomores, and I think so that's maybe a key difference for Army in this game and this year. So I see this game being in the neighborhood. I'm going to go for 24-17. Army defeating Navy and winning outright the Commander-in-Chief trophy. Now, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today, and it's been a great season. We've got, we didn't even talk about the bowl game. We'll do that maybe next week, as Army will take on the University of Missouri in the Armed Forces Bowl. Very friendly place for Army. They even practiced there the week of the Air Force game and went down and did a practice at the stadium. So very familiar confines for Army to go to, and it should be a great time. The Army brings a lot of fans for that game, to the two recent games, the last two times they were down there. Herman, you like that site down in going back to Fort Worth?
Yeah, I think it's great. I've got quite a few friends colleagues that actually played football at TCU, and that stadium was out of commission for a while, and they've got it back. And I haven't been since the refurbishment, but it's a great site. And let's not forget what this does for our recruiting, because I think Texas, right, still leads us with the most people on roster, and you got to go down there and make a showing. And those 10th and 11th graders in the stand, seeing it on TV, they got to say, hey, I want to be part of that. So
Okay.
It's important.
Okay. Any final comments from anyone?
Well, I just want to thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me to, I watch you guys, some of your replays on Facebook, and, I feel like a celebrity being here with you guys. You guys do such a great job. So thanks for all that you guys are doing for West Point. And on behalf of the AOG, we just appreciate every support that we get, because what we want to do is make West Point the best that it can be. It takes support of great graduates and other great Americans to support it. And I just want to let you know, we really, really, really appreciate it.
Well, Herman, it's so good to have you with us. Anytime you'd like to come back, we certainly would enjoy hearing your perspective and the chance to talk Army football. And really our best wishes to you and your family for the holiday season. And hopefully we'll see you out there on Saturday. And it should be a very interesting game on Saturday. I always look forward to the Army-Navy game, the best rivalry in sports, and certainly a great day. Thank you to our team, Richard Miller down in Florida, Jack McGuirk in Pelham, and Sam Houston in Huntsville, Alabama, in the Beat Navy studio from the class of '87, and Herman Bulls from the class of '78 and the association graduates. Thank you all for joining us. Herman, good to see you. We'll do this again. And as I said, this is Ken Kraetzer, Sons of American Legion Radio, representing the 2 million veterans of the American Legion and the 330,000 members of the Sons of the American Legion serving America's veterans. We'll see you on Saturday out at the Meadowlands, the Army-Navy game, the 122nd edition. Should be a great one. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good evening.